space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Traveller. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life, new civilizations, to boldly split infinitives where no man has gone before. Salutations, brothers and potential sisters, or anybody else, I suppose, aliens, the like. We stilt you out, you're welcome here. Today we are doing games, almost at Games Workshop's Fighting Fantasy Book 4, Starship Traveller, which was one of those ones that I definitely wanted as a young man, but never actually had, even though I had, looking at the back of this book, which lists the first 9, I had all of the others. I did not have this one, which probably there's like is there a Death Trap Racer or something like that, which is like the where they've tried to branch out and do something a little bit different. In this one we have a spaceship, we have a crew, so our adventure sheet will look a little bit different because we have to roll for all of our crew as well as for the ship itself. So I don't know what to expect from this at all. Never even opened the cover. Cover looks okay, looks a bit like an American footballer for some reason. So I'm the captain of the Starship Traveller. The ship itself is the pride of the Astro Navy. Its weapons and defence systems are the most technically advanced in the fleet, and its crew are first rate. Before I begin my voyage, I must determine strengths and weaknesses of me as the captain and of my crew members. The journey through the black hole will do some damage to the weapons and defence systems of the ship. That sounds like a spoiler. I haven't even got that far yet. So when determining my starting characteristics, I need 2 dice and a pencil. I've got a pen, next best thing. Not quite as mighty as a sword, but close enough. And then it is unlikely that you will find your way back to Earth in your first adventure. That might be a spoiler as well. However, we did the maths, didn't we, on City of Thieves, and it was something like less than 2.5% just of making all the right choices, let alone passing all the right dice rolls. So, pretty unlikely. As we discussed in the City of Thieves playthrough, I've got 4 dice, they're colour coordinated. Red will be me, white will be enemies, so that we can just do combat a little bit quicker. When I played this for House of Hell, I had the dice ready for that and died before I even got into any combat with anyone, so it was completely irrelevant. Let's prepare, let's roll for the ship. So I have to roll 1 dice and add 6. 10. And that is the weapon strength of the ship. And then I need to roll 2 and add 12, which will 18, that's the shields. So you and your crew. Personnel will perform according to their skill and stamina scores. Their skill reflects their abilities within their own profession, i.e. your science officer's skill with computers, medical officer's skill as a doctor, security in combat, and your own leadership. I also have 2 security guards, random red shirts, who almost certainly will die horribly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll 3 at a time. Red will be skill, white will be stamina. See how we do. Hey, that isn't too bad at all. In fact, if I cheated, I could have done a whole lot worse than that. Or a whole lot better, rather. Okay, so science, 11, 17. Yeah, not the best maths teacher in the world. Ooh, 12, 9 plus. Oh, let's hope we don't have to rely too much on engineering. 7 plus 12. At least I didn't get a calculator out. Oh God, my red shirts are really going to be cannon fodder. Look at that, it's 3 of 15. Please, red shirt number 2, be better than that. Oh my God, it's worse. Now, only security staff are skilled in combat, so any others that fight will lose 3 points from their skill during the battle. It does not apply to me because I am a hero. It says so in the book. Okay, but I also need to roll for luck. Ooh. That's a new one. I've never felt lucky before. I did die in the Silly Hooves playthrough as a result of having a really low luck score. I don't recall luck causing me a problem in House of Hell, just that book being incredibly mean. So when I arrive at a planet, I will be given the option of beaming onto the surface. Sometimes only I will beam down, but other times I can choose 2 or 3 crew members to accompany me. When given the choice, you may choose only crew members listed on the adventure sheet. There are other restrictions. Science officer, problem solver, medical officer, doctor, engineering, knowledge of mechanics and geology, and the others will fight on my behalf. So I need to choose before I land on the planet, but I'm pretty obviously going to bring along a red shirt because the security officer is so bad that the red shirts are just as bad. And probably somebody useful like science and medical because I rolled quite well on them. So on other planets, and when I beam up, I may restore 2 stamina to each crew member listed on the adventure sheet every time I leave a planet. However, I can only gain this advantage if the medical officer is still alive. If one of them dies, then I get a replacement who can't join the away teams and has the original skill -2, but I have to re-roll for the stamina. A replacement medical officer can restore stamina to injured crew members leaving planets, but only 1, not 2. So the scores I've recorded will give me an indication of the strengths and weaknesses of me and my team. I don't need to know anything of how the scores come into play, apparently. All will be explained as the adventure unfolds. In the adventure which follows, you are the captain of the Traveller, lost in an unknown universe. Spoiler alert, your own skill as a captain will determine whether you and your crew will ever see Earth again. I'm about to be flung through a black hole into unknown space. Your only chance of return will be to find another suitable black hole, guide the ship through it to your own universe. You are ready to set off. Take your seat on the bridge and prepare yourself for the adventure ahead. Make it so. Panic! Exclamation mark. Great start. From your seat at the helm of the Starship Traveller, you study the VDU anxiously. Engineering section has reported an overdrive malfunction, which has locked the warp engines at 10% velocity gain. You are watching the velocity indicator advancing rapidly through the safe region towards overload. You hit the communication button and call engineering for further news. It is not good. The malfunction cannot be traced, and it will take another 13 minutes for a system check to provide a full analysis. It's not good, Captain. It's not a very good Scottish accent at all, is it? You're heading towards the Celsian void, a known black hole. You may or may not avoid it, but your science officer has another plan. If you swing the ship through its immense gravitational pull, its gravity may help reduce your speed as you travel away from it. This is worth a try, but the navigational tuning will have to be precise. You swing the starship hard to starboard as you enter the Celsian gravitational field and fasten your eyes on the velocity indicator. To your great relief, the plan seems to be working. The gain comes down from 10% to 5% to 0 to -5%. Loud cheers come from the crew, but you are still watching the velocity indicator. It is now showing -15, then -25, and still falling. The ship is being sucked into the Celsian void! Exclamation mark. You hit the red alert button. Are you sure? It does mean changing the bulb. And instruct all ship's personnel to strap themselves down. The ship begins to whine and shake as it rapidly accelerates towards the black hole. I thought we were decelerating. There's nothing you can do to avert the impending disaster. An almighty explosion rocks the ship, and all the crew, including me, lose consciousness. Turn to 256. Okay, so we regain consciousness, hit the communicator and call for a systems damage report. All systems appear to be intact until engineering reports that the warp drives are dead. You are floating in space, but your drive reactors should be operational in 20 to 30 minutes. What a strange alien noise that was. Right, so the navigation officer is bewildered. He cannot identify your whereabouts, and a computer reports you are in uncharted space. The science officer has run an event analysis, and you appear to have gone through the black hole, through a dimensional warp, and you are now in what seems to be a parallel universe. Hopefully, not the one from Event Horizon, though that might be a little adult for a fighting fantasy book. After some delay, you regain warp drive. Long-range scans indicate 3 solar systems ahead, of which 2 may have intelligent life. Will you press on towards life-bearing, turn starboard towards the barren system, or turn to port towards the other life-bearing system? What a decision for a captain to have to make. Full steam ahead, whatever. We're going towards the life-bearing system, straight ahead, 86. I wonder if at this point we have already failed. If there's something in the other side of it that says, oh yeah, you didn't go to that one, you haven't got something you need. So I increase speed towards the dull blue planet and start to orbit it. Short-range scanners indicate that it is a life-bearing planet, which we knew already. The most heavily populated area appears to be a city in the centre of a large island. You may beam down into the centre of the city, taking any 3 other crew members from the adventure sheet with you. Or you may leave orbit. Now I'm obviously going to beam down. I'm going to take Science, Medical and Red Shirt number 1. Okay, you materialise on the planet's surface and look around. You're in a wide street of some kind which is completely deserted. Buildings of sorts line the streets, and behind you a large building stands at the end of the road. The buildings are strange structures. They are a multitude of shapes and sizes, and all look incomplete. You may either go down the road, approach the large building, try one of the smaller buildings. Well, let's do that first. Let's try a smaller one. You arrive at an odd-shaped building, just said that, with rounded walls. Several strange and apparently meaningless sticks protrude from the front walls. The door is open and you cautiously walk inside. Slumped over a table is a bulky figure, apparently asleep. Your entrance disturbs the creature, and it raises its head, sees you, and springs to its ... foot. Rather than legs, it has a single stump, something like a tree trunk. It bellows loudly, and your translator does not translate. Will you hold your hands up to show you mean no harm? Draw your phasers and shoot. Let's show we mean no harm. We have just broken into his house. You know when you turn a page and you sort of can see the entry that you have to read? This one for a minute there didn't look like it had anything at the bottom, and I thought I was going to say your adventure ends here after like 3 pieces, 3 choices. But it actually does. I'm not dead, which is always good news. Good news unless you particularly hate this channel anyway. The creature settles down. It was apparently just surprised at having been woken from its sleep by complete strangers, and such ugly ones at that. It explains that it is a Timol, which seems to be a quite friendly creature. It hops around the room and offers you food and drink, which you politely decline. This planet is a settlement planet, populated by all sorts of different aliens, at first mainly creatures who could not bear their own home planets, and those who are highly adventurous. As the planet proved to be a pleasant place to live with a gentle climate, it was not long before the word spread through the galaxy, this promised land of freedom and equality, attracting many more settlers. The problem was that no one was allowed to assume a position of responsibility. Everyone was entirely equal. The result is that after many years of settlement, the place is in utter chaos. Its inhabitants have not even decided on a name for the planet. I thought Promised Land was... No, all right. You explain your predicament to the Timol, how you are lost in a universe parallel to your own. The creature knows little about astronomy and interstellar travel, but suggests you head for the planet Cool Matter as its civilization is very advanced. You thank him for his information and leave. You may, if you wish, head for the main building at the end of the road or return to the ship. I'm going to the main building. Steps lead up to the large building. An inscription on the door indicates that it is a building of some importance. You knock, but there is no reply, although you can hear excited chatter coming from within. You try the door, it opens, and you step into a large entrance hallway. Several pairs of aliens of a variety of shapes and sizes cross the corridor in front of you, travelling purposefully from room to room and arguing excitedly with each other. A mysterious creature, dressed in shabby blue robes, notices you and shuffles over. Its face cannot be seen, but its eyes shine bright blue at you. It speaks and your translator interprets. "Ah, you look interesting. Where do you think the new medicine house should go?" I'm going to explain that I'm new to these parts and would like to meet some person of authority, but the alien laughs. "No one has authority here, my friend. We are all equal. Come, let me show you around." He offers to take you to the main meeting hall or a general tour. Let's go on the tour. I don't really know what I'm exploring for. I mean, we need to find a black hole, but do we need to repair the ship first? Okay, your guide, who is called Fioral, shows you from room to room, explaining the planet. "Our gods are freedom and equality," says the little creature. "This is an extremely pleasant planet to live on, and it welcomes settlers of all types. Everyone here is entirely equal, whether they have lived here all their lives or have just arrived. Everyone may also do anything they like here. We have no need for laws." He shows you around the records office, planning area, and rooms of state. On the way back to the debating chamber, you pass the guard room. You ask why, if there are no laws, they have the need for guards. Fioral stops and explains guards do not guard things. We do not need to protect things. It's just that some members of our community get pleasure out of attacking others, and of course they are free to do as they wish. But in fairness to the rest of the population, they dress up in uniforms and call themselves guards so as to warn others that they must be on the guard when a guard passes. Do you understand? Yes, I am a space captain with a skill of 12. I am fully understanding your crazy ways. While you consider this, however, 3 of these guards have left their room and have crept up behind you. They leap on your backs and wrestle with you. Fioral backs away. The full rules for hand-to-hand combat turn to 342, but remember this reference so you can return here afterwards. So I'm just going to write 103. That's where we are. And I have to turn to 342, but I suspect that hand-to-hand combat is going to be much like it was in all the others. Okay, so this is important because there's 4 of us and 3 of them, in that I can choose who the 4th person will attack. So I've got Science, Med, and Red 1. So Science, Med, Red 1. And they are fighting first guard, second guard, and third guard. Okay, so the red is for my team, and the white is for the opposition. I'm going to fight the first guard because his skill is slightly higher. Red 1 is going to fight the second guard because he's security, so I don't have to -3. And I'm going to get the medical officer to fight the third guard because his skill, after being modified, will be 9. And the sciences officer will be 8, and the science officer will attack the initially the third guard. Right, so 8 versus 3. So that's the first guard is down to 6. It's going to take a long time to fight this many people, even doing the dice rolls this way. Okay, so my medical officer did not distinguish himself. He lost 2 stamina. Assuming it's not Beverly Crusher. That is third down to 8. And now the science officer is fighting unarmed. But they still managed to do 2 damage to the third guard. What it says is that if you outnumber them 2 to 1, like the second guy gets a free hit effectively, you still have to roll for skill, but you can't take damage if you lose. But I don't know if that applies in a situation where you effectively want to kill one of them, going to be 4 against 2. So it doesn't say whether that applies. It only says if you start 2v1. So the first guard is down to 4 stamina now. That's a better effort all round. If you have a slight skill advantage, one hit on guard 3 and he'll be dead. One left on the first one. Okay, that I don't know what's happening with the camera I have recording the dice roll just keeps stopping. So I think what I'll do is I'll leave it and you'll have to take my word for it. Okay, so what's happened is the third guard has died before the the science officer has had a chance to have his attack. So I'm going to switch him to the second guard because he has a skill advantage of 1 in that fight. Okay, so the first guard, I have killed the first guard. Medical officer is fighting the second. Has him down to stamina of 1. And now my red shirt, who would previously have been fighting the third guard, but he's dead, is going to fight the second as well. And has excelled himself by taking 2 damage. I suppose that is what red shirts are there for. Now the science officer against the same guard. And so that is the science officer taking 2 damage. This last guy, his 2 mates are dead. You think he might try and run away, but nope. He stuck it out and hit 2 of my guys. But now we're back to me versus him, and I have a 5 skill advantage against him. And have killed him. So we have reduced the 3 guards to corpses. If I defeat the guards, turn to 150. Furel steps back out of the shadows and approaches you. He seems not to be in the least bit surprised by the scuffle. You ask why the guards attacked. Oh, for no reason, he says. They're free to do anything they like. You may now ask to be shown either the debating room or the travel and maps room, or you can leave the buildings and go back to the ship. I will go to the travel and maps room. It's in a state of chaos. What a shock. Books and charts lie all over the floor and the various tables in the room. A small withered alien with a large head, blue skin and long fingers is asleep in one corner but wakes as you enter. You ask first for maps of the planet but can learn little from them. While you wonder whether any of the star charts will be of use, the little man finds a large map and allows you to study it. Apparently you are in the solar system around the sun, Magnus. Apart from this one, there is only one other life-bearing planet in the system called Trax, orbiting Magnus a little further out. Trax was recently devastated by war and many of its inhabitants left to settle here. The other 2 nearest planets, though light years away, are Cool Matter, already heard about that, orbiting a purple sun, and Maconon, orbiting a double star. No black holes are on the chart. So I can thank the creature for his help and leave. So again, I've lost an option to explore. I can now not go to the debating room. You see how this game takes options away, perhaps in a sneaky way, but if you don't do those things and you need to do those things, then your game is effectively over. You just don't know it yet. So I'm going to beam up and I can restore 2 stamina. So all of my guys, they only took 1 hit each. So they're all back to their original values. I didn't take any stamina damage. 290. Back on the bridge, you set coordinates for the next journey. Another life-bearing planet orbits the same sun a little further out, and you may visit this. Turn to 258 or travel further. I'm going to go to 258. I'm going to visit. You have to explore everything as much as you can anyway. So I'm approaching a large red planet at sublight speed and set an orbiting course. Scanning the surface, I find no trace of intelligent life, but signs of civilization, and an advanced one at that. I can observe the planet through my macro telescope, and I can see that the surface is covered in a network of roads and canals. These focus every so often on what must be a population centre of some sort. You try various radio frequencies, there's no response. Will you beam onto the planet's surface? or ignore this planet and continue on. We're going to beam down. I'm taking the same 3 as before. So I've chosen a location within what ought to be one of the main population centres and picked 2 people. When I rematerialise, I'm on a deserted street. There is a ghostly silence and something is not quite right. The buildings around you and the vehicles lying derelict by the side of the road appear to be from an advanced civilization, but dust is thick on everything, as if there had been no activity for many years. Cautiously, I walk down the street, and as I approach a junction, at the end of the street, there's noise. I stop, the others look at you quizzically and listen, but you can hear nothing. You creep forward towards the corner and jump back sharply as a shape appears. "Visitors!" says a voice. The creature is roughly man-sized and wears a flowing white cape. "We have not had visitors for many years." You explain you are from another planet and the alien nods its hairy head. You ask whether it is possible to meet someone in a position of authority, and the creature considers for a moment. Suddenly you hear a small click and a shrill buzzing noise, and the alien drops to the ground, scorched by a phase of blast from one of your party. You whirl around in disbelief. The attacker looks proudly at the dead alien, and you order your other companion to hold him. Snatching his weapon, you demand to know why he fired at the aliens. "Why," he gasps, "if I hadn't fired, he would have killed you. Did you not see the weapon in his hand aimed at you?" You certainly didn't see a weapon in the alien's hand, and neither did your other crew member. What will you do now? When it says crew member, did that mean I could only take 2 down? Because I thought 3. I didn't really look very closely. Yeah, I can only take 2. Drat. I'll take medical and red 1. Beam the alien up to the ship. So I've got 3 options. I can send the trigger-happy guy back, beam the alien up to see if anything can be done for him, or let the companion off with a caution. See, I've got the medical officer with me. I bet he has to go back as well, and I'm going to be down to just me and the red shirt. This could be a disaster. I'm going to beam him up. There's something in Star Trek they do all the time. It's just like, do you not have quarantine? Do you not have any sort of quarantine rules? The amount of episodes that would have been really, really short if they had quarantine rules. Flipping your communicator, you instruct the ship to beam the alien back so that your medical officer can have a look at him. If he's with me, which he is, she will have to accompany the alien back to the ship, and another crew member can come down to replace her. The alien disappears. You prepare to continue, but a message from the ship comes through. Apparently the alien did not arrive. You confirm that it definitely left the planet. There's little I can do about it. You leave the problem with the transmatter. Crew turn to 220. So she, being my medical officer, has gone back, and I have replaced them with my science officer. I've still got red shirt 1. I'm going to 220. Okay, turning the corner and continue for several meters. A noise behind you startles you and you stop. With a sudden chill of panic, you realise what the noise is. It is the multiple hammer sound of a pre-laser weapon. Someone or something is firing a machine gun at you. You drop to the ground and scream at your companions to do likewise. As you all lie there with the bullets flying over your heads, the other 2 look at you puzzled. "Captain, why are we laying in the road?" says one of them, standing up. To your amazement, he stands in the hail of bullets completely unharmed. Gradually the sound fades and the others help you to your feet, looking at you in a most peculiar way. A little further down the road you come across a large building. I'm going to enter the building. 55. So I enter the building and look around. It is a library of some sort. How fabulous. I wonder if I know anybody that works in a library. You notice on the entrance desk a type of newspaper and take it with you. Perhaps it will give you some sort of clue as to why this whole city seems to be deserted. The library is computer controlled. You switch on the console. After some whirring noise, a voice comes back. "Good afternoon, reader. What subject would it be today?" I ask for local history, but the most recent entry appears to be some time ago when the city was bustling with life. One of your crew members rushes over. "Captain," he says, "I've just been looking at the astronomy files. There's a black hole which they think may be space warp. It is in sector 288. So I've written that down. This is indeed exciting news, and you instruct the ship to beam you aboard. Again, though, lost the option to explore the rest of the street. Back on board, you announce your news to the crew. As the navigation officer sets the course, you remember the newspaper and pass it on to the language lab for analysis. You may set your course either for the purple star just within long-range scanners, or a small cluster of stars off to the starboard. I'm going to go to the purple star. 233. I have to say, that already this is like go here, beam down, go here, beam down. You don't really get a sense of any of the planets. Like you're just there for a fraction of a time and then you're gone. Nothing's really described. Steve Jackson, I think both the other ones I did, Ian Livingstone, House of Hell, I think, is Steve Jackson as well, but that seemed much more atmospheric than this one, which is really relying on that do you like Star Trek sort of intertextuality, because if you don't, I don't think that there's much here for you. And that makes this a strange option as well, because this was some years between Star Trek and The Next Gen not being on TV, but of course Wrath of Khan would have been, I think that was 1982, so it would have been 2 years before this. As you travel towards your destination, your language lab reports some interesting findings from the newspaper. I've just left the planet Prax, a fairly advanced civilization. Some years before the paper was published, a great debate occurred and two groups emerged with two schools of thought. The progressives were modern thinkers set on material progress, computerization, and a more scientific view of the future. The regressives, on the other hand, disliked the inhuman element of the progressives' world and preferred a return to basics where people did not rely on machines. A Cold War ensued. Some of the regressives discovered that the progressives had developed a powerful hallucinatory drug. The progressives had intended to use the drug on the regressives, but when the plot was discovered, they agreed to send all stocks of the drug into space out of the way. Something went wrong, rocket exploded in the atmosphere, subjecting the entire planet to severe hallucinations. On the day that the paper was published, its effects were beginning to be noticed. What relevance is that now? I've left there. I don't have the option to go back. If the drug had been fired into the galaxy at some point, it might reoccur in the story. But yeah, I'm going to the purple star still, 44. The scanners indicate that the second planet has an atmosphere ideal for life. You drop into orbit around this planet and scan the surface. There are strong indications of intelligent activity. Indeed, it is likely that the planet's civilization is further advanced than our own. I'm going to beam down to the planet 171. How many planets have I been to now? I feel like I've been playing this, 20 minutes? Is this the third? I'm trying to think, but it might be only the second. You try an all-frequency broadcast several times and get no reply. Selecting one officer and a security guard from the adventure sheet, I beam down. So again, I'm like down a 2. What was up with a 3? I'm taking a medical officer and I'm taking red shirt. They're my options because they've got the highest skills. I materialise in a deserted street. Now that's the third, isn't it? That's the third deserted street. Tall buildings on one side tower over you, while on the other side of the street, the buildings are small. Perhaps these are private dwellings. The architecture is alien. Shocker. But no life of any kind can be seen in the distance. Ahead of you down the road, you hear a strange whirring sound. Soon you see a strange vehicle, which seems to be heading towards you. It is a hover car, and it is moving slowly. As you decide what to do, your translator picks up a sound. Over here, quick! You look around and see a man-sized, somewhat insect-shaped creature beckoning you into one of the buildings. Will you follow him or ignore him? I'm going to follow him. 108. You run off the road and follow him into the building. Just in time, he exclaims. You don't want the PCs to find you on the street, do you? You have no idea what he's talking about. You explain you are not from this planet. He's on his guard. You reassure him that you mean no harm. You just want information. I don't know what that noise is. It sounds like it's inside, but I think it might be the shop downstairs, in which case there's nothing more I can do. I nearly lost my place in the book as well. Okay, so I'm on the planet Cool Matter. The PCs you have escaped from are the population controllers. On this planet, no one dies, but as the population increases, it is necessary to exterminate some of us to make room for the others. Oh, nice. The PCs have the authority to exterminate anyone they like within certain quota limits without reason. They would certainly have killed you had they caught you outside after curfew hours. Suddenly the door crashes open and 3 creatures in armoured uniforms step in. I thought I saw them enter this building, their leader declares. Outside, he orders. Your host protests that you are aliens and did not know the curfew laws, but the PC leader points a finger and an electric Blu-ray burns through his chest. Oh, we just got some totally innocent guy that just wanted to help. We just got him killed. Yeah, seems quite Star Trek. You decide it would be prudent to follow the PCs outside. Turn to 140. So I explain that I'm from another planet and therefore didn't know anything of the laws again. He says he doesn't care. The penalty is extermination. Enter the vehicle. Will you enter as they wish? Draw your phasers and return fire. Or pretend to comply with their wishes and take them by surprise. Turn to 8. That seems very Kirk. I'm going to comply and then judo chop as they drop their guard. I don't think this is going well. Right. So walk up the entrance door as if to climb into the vehicle. As you pass the aliens, you signal to the others and 3 of you spring on them. This proves to be a rather fruitless exercise as the 3 creatures are immensely strong. They fling us to the ground, but as you fall, you manage to grapple the helmet off one of the guards. It stops dead and it tracks in a very artificial pose, as if some switch had been suddenly turned off. The leader grabs the helmet and replaces it on his colleague, who instantly springs back to life. You realise you'll be no match for the creatures and climb into the vehicle as they have ordered, but your discovery may prove to be a useful clue in helping to escape from the PCs, as they call themselves. If you proceed along certain ways, you'll be called upon to make a skill roll. Your knowledge makes it likely that you will make the right move and may deduct 2 from your roll when rolling against skill, which is marked skill with 2 stars. This will make more sense at the time. I hope so. 317. As you enter the vehicle, it rocks from side to side. Your captors climb in and start the hover engine, swinging the car around the way it came. You travel for half an hour or so and finally stop outside a large round building. Other similar cars have stopped there as well, and numerous aliens are being led into the building. You are taken inside and put in a room which is evidently a cell of some kind along with 4 aliens. They seem resigned to the fact that they are about to be exterminated as part of the population control program. You cannot understand why they are so unemotional about their impending death. One of the uniformed creatures calls for your party. You will have to act quickly. Will you try to fight your way out, try to contact the ship, or try to arrange to see someone in authority? If you can contact the ship, why didn't we do that before? You try your communicator but can hear only static. Something in the building is jamming the signal. However, as you try the controls, you notice something strange. All the aliens you can see are motionless like statues. You have discovered what may be a way to escape. You turn off your communicator and the aliens come back to life. Turn to 215. I follow the guard. Why am I following the guard? I had 3 options and now I've got none because I tried 1. So I could still say, take me to somebody in authority. So various armed guards are directing civilians through a large open doorway at one end of the room from which a dull red glow is coming. Are you directed? You are directed to the end of the line. Do I have my science officer with me? Oops. I actually don't know. I think I brought my medical officer. If I have already tried to contact the ship, turn to 238. Otherwise, so 238. Remembering what happened last time you tried your communicator, you tried contacting the ship. Again, you are unable to get through and hear nothing but static but your communicator. But your communicator again has a strange effect on the aliens. You're looking at a room full of statues. The aliens are transfixed. This is an opportune time to leave the room. Turn to 160. I'm going to stop and see if I can do something about that alarm before I do any more. And perhaps try and get the dice cam working again. So we're back, the alarm is off, and our adventure in space is not being disturbed by such profane things as a burglar alarm in a shop, which was not being robbed. They were there fixing the alarm. So let us continue. We are in the centre of a complex, dodging around corridors to avoid the creatures. We try our communicator several times, but the signal's still being jammed. Past one room in which the walls are covered with electronic equipment. Perhaps this is a transmission room, transmitting the signal which is blocking our own signal. That's quite a mouthful. 2 aliens sit inside, but your attempts to contact the ship on your communicator has turned them into statues. Entering the room, you play with the controls until eventually the signal comes back through your communicator from the ship. You give the order to beam up straight away. It will take several seconds to fix on your exact coordinates. While you wait, you remove one of the aliens' helmets. Inside the helmet and the creature's head is a mass of electronic circuitry. They've been captured by androids. I keep the helmet for investigation on the ship, and moments later the beam locks on and takes you up. The problem is that was the advanced planet in the system, or so they told us, and we haven't got anything out of that visit. So that I don't think that was a successful away mission at all. Leaving orbit, you can scan space ahead of you. There is a planet 3.6 light years away which may support life. You enter warp speed and head towards it. The electronics lab report that the helmet you brought back was indeed an advanced piece of work. With a few adjustments, they will be able to prepare it so that when you wear it, you may increase your skill by 1 point. That's definitely going to be useful. It gives me skill of 13. Let's hope that there isn't any need to roll below your skill for any above for any particular reason. But it wouldn't have been possible on 12 either, so it doesn't really give me a lot of advantage. It would have been much more useful to be able to give it to my engineer who is incompetent, but it doesn't say that I can do that. So we shall continue on without. So I approach a medium-sized blue-green planet and take up an orbiting position. Seems like I've heard that phrase a lot. Scanning the planet surface reveals several clusters of intelligent life forms. I feel like I've heard that a lot as well. You try to contact them, but nothing comes up on the radio. Have I not heard that quite a lot as well? Will I beam down, or will I just ignore them and leave on? It's like, obviously I'm going to beam down, and now I can take 3 crew members. Why sometimes is it 2 and sometimes it's 3? There's something really weird about that. It's obviously contrived to make certain missions harder, but it didn't make any difference to the last one, in which I gained nothing, so perhaps it did. I'm beaming down. I'm taking 3 people, which are my usual: science, medical, and a red shirt. You land on the planet and look around. Shocker. A thunderstorm is raging around you and it is pouring with rain. You're standing on rocky ground about 100 meters from what appears to be a village of some kind. 3 aliens, presumably villagers, are shuffling around about halfway to the village, but as you appear, they are startled and turn to face you. The strange podgy creatures with long necks and stumpy legs. One of the aliens turns and waddles off back to the village at what must be a running pace. The other 2 are advancing towards you with weapons, long pointed sticks, drawn. Will you wait for them to arrive, walk towards them to meet them, or make a dash? I'm going to just go meet them. 25. I feel like perhaps Picard would be like, we shall walk to meet them, but Kirk would be like, let's see if they have wives. They hold their ground and ready their weapons. They shout at you, and through your translator you hear that they are telling you to remain where you are. You may obey them and wait for them to reach you, turn to 115, or continue. Oh, may as well wait for them if it's what they want. Through your translator you talk to them, explaining your mission. They are suspicious and hold you at bay with their weapons, but agree to take you to the village elder to talk. So I enter the village area. The aliens shuffle towards you inquisitively. You are marched to a large hut in the centre of the clearing to meet the village elder. You enter this hut and see a large, somewhat wrinkled alien squatting in a far corner. After you've exchanged introductions, you begin to question him. Will you ask him about the planet and its inhabitants, or do you believe this primitive race can be of little help in your mission? But ask anyway about their knowledge of astronomy. I think that I do want to ask about the astronomy, but I'm not. Like, it's kind of dismissive and insulting to go, oh yeah, you're primitive, what do you know? So I'm going to risk asking him about the planet, if it then might not let me actually ever ask again about astronomy. The alien is quite a talkative creature and tells you that you are on the planet Kleber. On the surface of the planet there are many villages of similar creatures. The state of cultural development is Middle Ages on Earth. They're agricultural. The weather used to be bad. Weather used to be excellent, but bad weather has ruined their crops for several seasons. The weather is controlled by someone they refer to as the Rain Lord, who lives in a fortified castle 2 hours' journey from the village. The Rain Lord is, they believe, punishing them with bad weather. As the crops have been failing, the village has been hit by famine and disease. If you have your medical officer, you may offer to see what can be done for the sick. They may ask them if they have any knowledge of astronomy, or you may offer to try and contact the Rain Lord. I'm worried I'm going to lose my opportunity to ask about astronomy 155, so I'm going to do that, but I'm perfectly happy to help them afterwards. I bet that was a bad move, because it's now taken all my options away from me. As you suspected, they know nothing. I'd wind up the talk and being back to the ship. It's like, no, No, that isn't what I wanted to do. So now I can't do anything more on that planet. On board ship, you plan your next course, turn to 203. But I don't have anything. Alright, I leave orbit and probe your scanners for likely destinations. There's a red planet and I'm going to go towards that. It says you can head towards, but it doesn't give me any choice. So, looks like we're going to the red planet. I wonder if our attempts to radio will be unsuccessful. There's a small grey planet. Will you investigate this? Yes, I may as well. The planet appears to have no life in it, but scanners detect some sort of activity, perhaps the regular workings of a machine. You decide to investigate and send a party in a recon plane to see what is happening. They pilot the plane to the area and signal and land on the planet. It is rocky and barren, and not far from where they've landed, they find a scout ship of a type they've never come across before. Will I tell them to investigate or return to the ship? I think we should investigate. There's no sign of the pilot. Perhaps he was killed or in a crash. An automatic signal, probably a mayday, is being transmitted by the ship's radio. There is nothing else to see, and the crew return to their recon plane and fly back to the ship. What a waste of time. Did I even have an option there? That was just a complete waste of time. The party make their way to the briefing room to report to you. As they relate their findings, you are interrupted suddenly with an urgent message. Captain, we've lost 3 of our engineering personnel who were involved with docking the recon plane. They're all dead. What will be your first command? Put the landing party into quarantine in the medical section. Perhaps it wasn't a waste of time. It's going to be just one of those cruel things that kills my entire ship. Oh my god, if I have to rely on my engineer, we're all dead. Didn't remember that, did I? So the landing party have rushed to the medical section for observation, but they appear to be fit and healthy. Meanwhile, you receive another report. 3 more crew members have mysteriously dropped dead, this time in engineering. There's a chance that one of those will be your engineering officer. Throw 2 dice for each of these 3 victims. If you roll a double 6 or a double 1, I've lost my engineering officer. So I'm going to be 2 reds and 2 whites, and then I'll have to do another 2. No double 6 or double 1. Ooh, a double 4. But that doesn't mean anything. So I have not lost my engineering officer, but frankly, he's useless. Turn to 172. Your science officer reports to you with a suggestion to throw 2 dice. If this number rolled is equal or less than your science officer's skill, turn to 153. 10. You got 11, so it's equal or less. He suggests you seal off the docking bay as it seems apparent that a poison of some kind has been brought back to the ship in the recon plane. No doubt the landing party are not affected as they were wearing EVA suits. You agree and give the command. You also have the areas of the engineering lab which have been effective sealed off. Turn to page 18. Quickly, the crew sealed off the effective area so as to not spread the unknown killer any further. No more deaths are reported. 337. Using an EVA suit, your medical officer examines the body of one of the victims. She finds that the man has been poisoned. Thanks, Sherlock. The planet below must have had some sort of poisonous gas in its atmosphere. Thanks, Sherlock. This has now been carried back to the ship. Wow. This is what a science officer with a skill of 11 gets you, is it? Stating the obvious 3 times. Get the medical officer to search for an antidote and treat the crew. Evacuate the air from the affected sections. I'm going to go with the medical officer. My medical officer's good. Okay, so roll 2 dice for the medical officer. If the roll is equal or lower... Okay. Skill of 12. It was rather pointless. Equal or lower than a skill 129. Your MO comes up with a possible antidote and tries it out on herself, entering the affected area without an EVA suit. Watching her on a monitor screen, you see her enter the docking bay. Moments later, she falls to her knees. Her antidote has not been successful, and you've lost I didn't check, but I'm sure that I can't remember what. Did I turn to the wrong page? I didn't make any notes about which one it was that I left, so I can't go back and check. Anyway, apparently my medical officer is dead, and I'm going to have to re-roll their stamina for... Right. So, not significantly worse, but worse. That must be a mistake. Otherwise, I'm really screwed with a medical officer of skill of 12. I could not possibly succeed. 284. You give the instruction to evacuate all the air from the affected area, and all crew within the area are instructed to wear EVA suits as they will be in a vacuum. The air is pumped out into space, and half an hour later, fresh air is introduced. Your science officer checks the new air, and it is found to be poison-free. Back on the bridge, I can set my course. Ahead of you are 2 planets, large red, blue, or a small, fast-moving spot which shows signs of life. Let's do the fast-moving spot, because if it's fast-moving, I might not get the chance again. Although, the way this game works, I probably won't anyway. You head out into space with scanners probing ahead of you. A small, fast-moving dot comes within range. That's the exact same, not fast-moving dot, fast-moving dot. As you approach it, you identify it as another ship. You send out on all frequencies, radio message, and soon an alien face appears on your screen. The radio actually worked. The face is brown, scaly, and somewhat reptilian, and introduces itself as Commander Mal of Imperial Ganzig Federation. Have you come across them before? No. If not, turn to 5. They declares that I'm trespassing in Confederation territory and claims you as a prisoner. He instructs you to follow his ship to a nearby starbase. If you will accompany him, turn to 15. If you refuse, turn to 143. See, I kind of want to refuse, but at the same time, they're going to a starbase which might have information I need. So I'm going to follow them. So I follow them for several hours until a small round object is on the scanner. It's a wheel structure rotating slowly. The Ganzigites announce their arrival. Monitoring their conversation, you learn that this is the spaceport Lua Jamil. Mikhail Mal contacts me and gives me docking instructions. You dock the ship and wait while he checks your story. Sometime later, you see the Ganzigite ship leave dock. I've either been cleared, forgotten about, or ignored, and I go to investigate the spaceport 157. Inside the spaceport, you follow the corridor until you are approached by a hovering device of some kind. It announces itself as a service robot and asks if it can be useful. Do I want someone in authority? A ship overhaul has had nothing done to it at all. Recreation, obviously I'm going to go authority, 74. The service robot leads you to a waiting room. After several minutes, you are shown into a plush office. Behind a desk sits a large creature. It has a large head. Large creature with a large head, that's some good writing there. And torso, and is shaped like an old-fashioned egg timer. It introduces itself as the Us-E and asks how he might help you. He's in control of the spaceport. I explain the position and ask for help getting back to our own universe. He asks you to wait while he contacts mapping. He then sits bolt upright in a state of meditation and appears to be contacting someone by telepathy. I wait patiently. He snaps out of the trance. I cannot guarantee that this information will help you, but my mapping officer has done some studies on gateways between universes. It seems likely that the 2 universes will touch in the near future, stardate 77 to be precise. Although there is no way of telling whether this is likely to be your own universe, you will be able to transfer only through a black hole, but he cannot be certain which one. So there's more than one now? So that's 77, stardate 77. So I return back to the ship. That was productive. Okay, so start the ship's engines and leave the spaceport and head off into deep space, turn to 324. Your crew are becoming anxious about their fate. Will you be spending the rest of their lives searching space for a dimension gate which may never appear? You are called on to make a statement to reassure them. Have you learned the time and space coordinates of the black hole which will hopefully take you back to your own universe? If you believe you have, turn to 216. If you have not, I don't know. There was that guy that said it was 288, and there was another guy that said the start date was 77. Time and space coordinates. So that seems like I only need two things. I've got those two things. I'm going to try and blag it and say that I have, but I don't really know because nobody told me what I was looking for. I might be in trouble here. You call all your section heads to the briefing room and announce that you believe you have the space and time coordinates for a likely black hole. If your velocity and timings are right, you ought to be able to pass through this black hole, which may be the Celestian void, and emerge in Earth's universe. Return to the bridge and prepare for the journey, setting off towards the black hole. Subtract its time coordinates from its location coordinates and turn to the number that this gives. Nobody told me there would be maths. Right, I've got 288 and I've got 77, so it's 211, which is actually only one page over. You set course and arrive at the black hole, dropping out of warp speed some distance from it, carefully planning your angle of entry and velocity. You enter into the dark void. You feel the ship being taken over by the immense gravitational force and order all crew to strap themselves in. Suddenly the ship lurches forward and begins to speed up. The G-force is so strong that you, along with the rest of the crew, pass out to 339. You will never know whether or not this was the correct black hole. Perhaps it was your angle of entry, or maybe it was your speed, or even the information you have. Whatever the error, the traveller never emerges from the void. Your mission has been unsuccessful. So we snuffed it. We never made it back. I don't know what I was missing. It was 288 that I wrote down. 211. I thought for a moment then, when I didn't immediately die, that I might have actually succeeded on my first go, but then I did immediately die, so clearly did not. In terms of the 3 books that I've done so far in this series, this one was really quite poor. It feels like a really short adventure, whereas the others seem to be like I was playing them for a good couple of hours. This one, even allowing for having to stop for the alarm, feels like about half an hour. I don't know how long this video is, or maybe it's a bit more. Really quick. I only fought one alien, which was very bog standard. Didn't fight any other ships. All the planets are kind of really bland in their description. They all seem the same. I think there's a reason why that one was harder to find in the 1980s when I was buying these, because that was just not very good. I didn't really enjoy it. I thought it might play on the Star Trek thing a little bit more, like maybe Galaxy Quest, but it was just a rather po-faced and rather pale imitation. It would be much better, I think, to really restrict the amount of planets just down to 1 or 2 so you can actually get a flavour of them, rather than just beam in, beam out. If you're lucky, you get the right information. So really poor. Didn't find that a lot of fun at all, and as is fairly typical, did not succeed. I think that I would try like the car racing one just to see again what the difference in the game mechanics is, but the difference in the game mechanics here was not really significant, apart from you've got other crew members that you roll against instead of you. You're still rolling against something. The ship never came into it, but it looks like with weapon skill and shields that it's the same as skill and stamina, isn't it? It's not going to be any different. I never had to check against luck, so the one time that I actually had luck, I never needed it, which is, I guess, bad luck. And like I say, like the way it's written is really, really poor. Way poorer than City of Thieves or House of Hell, which both had a real attempt to create the sort of mood that those, like the horror one particularly, but also the other one was so Dungeons and Dragons-y that you couldn't help but have that feel about it anyway, but it still really did it quite well. And I have to say as well that some of the illustrations are just, once you start getting into it like that, that's the illustration on like page 1. It's just rubbish. the icons, you know, like the things they put. That's a really nice phaser gun there. So those are really good, but like the full page images, I'm just not very good at all.
Are you Sexton Lovecraft?
Sexton Lovecraft?
Wake up, Sexton.
What?
Professor Lovecraft.
Please, call me Professor Lovecraft.
You have been found guilty of the most hideous crimes. The sentence is death. Have you any last words?
Small crowd. Damn, they got it fast.
They're coming through.
Professor Lovecraft, help me!
Oh my God! They turned Professor Cohen into water.
I don't think that's water. Do not pull the lever. Fascinating.
Nice work, Professor.